We are in the midst of one of the biggest disruptions that is taking place in India, and that is simply because, firstly, India is going to grow. We are growing at about 7.5%, but the challenge is really to grow at higher rates of 9 to 10%. And with a vast number of structural reforms that have been carried out, from ease of doing business, where we've jumped up 65 positions, the goods and services tax, one tax across economy, all these checkposts have vanished, long waiting lines have gone, the insolvency and bankruptcy code, which has ended crony capitalism, RERA, many other things. I think over the next 2 years, we'll bring in a lot of efficiency in the economy. And these structural reforms will lead to the growth of Indian economy in due course. Now, automobile sector contributes about close to 7.2% of India's GDP. It is a huge job creator. It creates over 35 lakh jobs. It's a massive job creator. But the important thing is that in India, we only have 20 vehicles per 1,000 people. 20 vehicles per 1,000 people as compared to 900 per 1,000 in the United States of America and close to about 800 per 1,000 in Europe. And therefore, the biggest growth, if you read all the recent analysis by Morgan Stanley, by Bloomberg on the automobile sector, the biggest growth will happen in India. Whether we like it or not, this is going to happen because India's growth has just begun. India's process of urbanization has just begun. Every minute we are seeing 30 people move from rural areas to urban areas, and if you go by the latest McKinsey study, you will see 500 million additional Indians getting into the process of urbanization. And therefore, till 2040, India's automobile sector is going to grow. But the sector is going to face a massive disruption. And that is, to my mind, that we will increasingly move from internal combustion to shared, connected, and clean vehicles. And this will be made inevitable. This will be made inevitable because one, technology will drive, digital technology, because 1 billion Indians have mobile. Technology will drive sharing. And the mode will be pay as you go. You take it from me, the mode in 3 years' time, 3 to 4 years' time will be pay as you go rather than ownership. And secondly, the big disruption that will happen is that we will move from internal combustion to BS6, but more than that to electric. And whether you like it or not, that will happen. Now, why I decided to come for today's morning meeting is because, to my mind, in India's automobile sector, though Mr. Sorabji only concentrates on four-wheelers, the most important segment is two-wheelers. And in three-wheelers, about 50% of the vehicles should be turned electric, because this is the key for India. 80% vehicles are two-wheelers or three-wheelers. And that's why the Indian market is very different from the market anywhere else in the world. The American market, European market is all driven by four-wheelers. But in India, 80% of the market is two-wheelers or three-wheelers. 74% is two-wheelers, the rest is three-wheelers. And actually, two-wheelers, three-wheelers account for almost 30% of the CO2 emissions. And therefore, to my mind, if you want to move towards a clean, connected and sharing future, which is inevitable because the cost of battery is rapidly falling. Last 5 years, we've seen a sharp fall in battery prices. Battery prices are still at about $250, $260 per kilowatt hour. They are likely to fall in the next 4 to 5 years at $74 per kilowatt hour, and that'll make electric vehicle on par with combustion vehicles. the initial cost itself, not the total cost. Total cost now itself, if you look at the life cycle, if you look at the variable cost, electric vehicles are almost on par with this thing. But as a consumer, when I go to the showroom, I don't want to pay initially more. And therefore, in 4 years' time, definitely the initial cost will be on par with electric vehicle, will be on par with combustion vehicle. So therefore, this time when the FAME scheme, the faster adoption of vehicles scheme, when FAME 2 was being drafted, we altered the scheme totally. We altered the scheme and gave a huge thrust to two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and public transportation, buses. We increased its outlay from about 5,000 crores to 10,000 crores, and the whole focus, the majority of the component is for two-wheelers. And our objective is that in the next 3 years, we should take close to 33% of the two-wheelers as electric. And in three-wheelers, about 50% of the vehicles should be turned electric, because this is the key for India. We have already 14 of the 15 most polluted cities in the world, and we can't go around with this level of congestion, with this level of pollution, killing the lives of Indians, and we have to improve the lives of Indians. And therefore, we have to improve the quality, and whether we like it or not, the courts will step in, people will step in, and therefore the government has acted in the FAME 2 scheme by pushing for making the cost of ownership right now itself on par. So with the implementation of FAME 2, which will be rolled out or which has been approved by the cabinet, the initial cost of two-wheeler electric will almost be on par with combustion vehicles. Second thing we've tried to do is that if we do small things in India, then we will never be able to make a major disruption. The world will go through a disruption 4 years down the line. If we keep waiting for everything else, because in India, you have foreign OEMs here, you have Honda, you have Toyota, you have all these international companies here, Mercedes, BMW. The influence in a globalized world, their influence will come here, but it will come late. By that time, India would have been too polluted. So you need to ensure that you are able to move towards a clean, connected, and a shared future. And therefore, we have thought of size and scale. If you don't do size and scale, many manufacturers will not get into manufacturing of electric. And therefore, in two-wheelers and three-wheelers, our focus is to push for size and scale, and that's why we increased the outlay to 10,000 crores, so that we will enhance the manufacturing, because we can't afford what we have done in the telecom sector. In telecom sector, as 1 billion Indians bought mobiles, the entire telecom equipment is imported. We can't afford to do that. We can't afford to do this because the automobile sector is a creator of jobs. It contributes to GDP. It accounts for majority of exports. And therefore, we have to ensure that this happens with Make in India. And as we move from 2,000 parts to 20 parts, we must ensure that these 20 parts are made in India, and they're very simple parts. Right now, everything is getting imported. And the second thing is that the battery, we are doing only packaging. We need to get down to the fuel cells. And if you are able to do that to fuel cells, which is no rocket science, let me tell you, and if you are importing only nickel, cobalt, then you are adding close to 81% of the value of the battery in India. 81% of the value in India. So our objective is that even if the raw material is imported, lithium, nickel, cobalt is imported, 81% of the value can be added in India. So our objective is that the 20 parts which are required for electric mobility must be manufactured in India. We must push for electrification of two-wheelers. We must push for electrification of three-wheelers. And we must push for size and scale of manufacturing in India. And government will be the catalyst for that change. We will make the vehicles almost on par with combustion vehicles for two-wheelers through FAME 2. And the batteries must be manufactured up to the level of fuel cells in India, and that should be our strategy. That is the strategy. And that is why my belief is that given the growth of India, given the scale and size of India, and given the fact that we are heading for a major process of urbanization, the two-wheeler segment is the most important segment in the automobile sector. And this 72,000 crore, which is being pumped into the agriculture sector as subsidy, as assistance to the farmers, will all actually lead to a huge demand in the agriculture sector, and majority of that demand will go in for either two-wheelers or for tractors. And therefore, long term, I envisage that the two-wheeler market is going to grow, it's going to expand in India, but the earlier we make this shift, we realize that there is going to be a shift. The earlier we accept the change, the better it is. And if change is inevitable, change will happen in many ways. One, it will be a sharing world. Secondly, it will be a pay-as-you-go world. Thirdly, it will be a digital world. Fourthly, there will be a lot of swapping of batteries. Fifthly, there will be a lot of charging stations. Sixthly, there will be a lot of manufacturing in India. Seventhly, to my mind, a lot of manufacturing of battery will happen in India. And India till 2040, as has been said by Morgan Stanley in his report, India's Transport Evolution, it's a report of 2018, June or July, which says that till 2040, India will be the biggest market and 50% of the mileage will be through shared, connected and electric vehicles by 2040. And almost by 2030, almost half the vehicles in India will be electric vehicles. And that is a huge business potential. There's a massive business potential. And unlike Saurabhji, my view is very different from his. I believe that India always gets into sunset industries. We keep waiting till everybody else has captured the market. In every sector we do this. And then it's very difficult for India to get in. India must get into the sunrise sectors and be the first mover. And those who move first will capture the market. And those who capture the market will retain it for the next 30 to 40 years. And therefore, my belief is that the growth belongs to the sunrise sector. Automobiles, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, buses, swapping, battery charging, energy storage, all these are sunrise sectors of the future. And India must seize this opportunity. And therefore, two-wheelers will be the key to this growth. And I wish all of you all the best and a great future. Thank you very much.